let's introduce this concept of dual vision, and I want to start with a story, right? About 12 years ago, I was in discussion with the HR director of Merck because I wanted to join the company, and at the same time, I wanted to continue my teaching activity. I was already teaching at a number of leading business schools, and I wanted to continue to do it. Now, the challenge was, how do we get the HR director to give me a senior job and at the same time to allow me free times for the teaching activity? The question I will ask you is the following. You just have to put a comment in the chat. I'm going to give you my arguments, and you'll have to tell me whether you are fully convinced, partially convinced, or not really convinced by my argument. Vlad, I'm already teaching at a number of leading business schools. It's something that I enjoy very much. It gives me the opportunity to meet some of the brightest people in the world. When I come back to the office, I feel full of energy. And it is so important for my balance and my personal satisfaction to continue this teaching activity. So I will ask you that in the employment contract, we add a clause that I can continue my teaching activity. Are you fully convinced by my argument, partially convinced, or not really convinced? Not so convinced, right? So let's see if we can do better. Let's try again. Vlad, I'm already teaching at a number of leading business schools. It's a great opportunity to build the brand of Merck with some of the brightest people in the world and to attract the talents into the company. For instance, with my current employer, this year we hired 4 MBAs from IMD, one from INSEAD. We did an activity with the Oxford students in Dubai. There is a huge value in my presence at those leading business schools, and we should definitely continue to do it. Now, how do you feel about the second sentence? I guess, right, the second message was more persuasive than the first one. A key difference between the two is that in the first case, I was talking about what's in it for me. In the second case, I was talking about what's in it for them. So one of the things that you can do to be more persuasive as you give your message, talk about what's in it for them rather than what's in it for you. And there is this sentence that we heard a lot, put yourself into their shoes. Yeah, looks nice, but in real life, how do I do it? How do I get people to do how do I get to understand more how the other person sees the situation? You see, one of the tools that you have to apply dual vision and to understand as much as possible about the interests, priorities, and needs of the other party is to fill this template. Yeah, let's see for the question from David. Okay. What if you're unsure of the answer for a point you want to put into this template? Do you have strategy to get this answer from the other party? Absolutely, David. There is a long list of things that you can do during the negotiation in order to understand the interest and priority of the other party. You can ask open-ended questions. You can start sharing some information to signal collaboration. Maybe you can triangulate the information. You can ask the same question in multiple ways to check understanding. You can use active listening. You can paraphrase the other to ensure that you understood what they're saying. You can check the body language to see what kind of information you can get looking at the information of the other people. You can ask probing question. You can go more in depth. Don't just stay at the general level, but ask more probing questions. So during the meeting, we should continue the discovery journey. Try to go into the head of our counterpart, try to understand as much as possible how they see the deal is an ongoing journey. It's not something that you stop at the preparation phase, but you keep asking your question. Okay, now you probably made up your mind about what you will do in order to understand what is important for your internal stakeholders. And Some of the things that people use is check the LinkedIn profile or all the social media so that you have an idea about what are, what kind of person you have. Maybe, as you look at the LinkedIn profile, you may also check, do we have a common connection? Maybe if I have a common connection, somebody that I know very well, maybe my good friends can give me some more insight about this person I'm meeting. Maybe if you're meeting a person that is fairly popular, then you can do a Google search. You may find out something about this person. You're meeting a top executive. You're meeting somebody who has, you know, been in the industry for a long time. You may discover some more by doing a Google search. Talk to people in your network. Maybe there is some historical data that can help you. You can check the note from past meeting. If it's an internal meeting, then maybe you can check the intranet or whatever you want to call it. So these are all the kind of tools that you can use to understand more about an internal stakeholder. But one of the tools that we do have in order to understand more about the people we are dealing with is indeed using artificial intelligence personality profiles. I've been using Humantic for maybe 1 year or something more, and it's something that I found useful as one of the tools that can help you build this dual vision, that can help you to understand as much as possible about how the other person is likely to behave, how they may look at the deals, what is the most effective way to deal with them. Just having a quick look at the Humantic profile, you may have an idea about the personality. You understand, how you will behave at the beginning of the meeting, if you're writing an email, if you are negotiating with them, what you will do in order to close, how likely they are to take risk or not take risk, and all those kind of things. So I'm not advocate now. By the way, I didn't get paid by Humantic for doing this. Is uh, is because I've been using Humantic for a year, and I find it as a useful tool in order to understand as much more about the interest and priority of the other party. You should take them as a hypothesis, not as assumption. A mistake we make in negotiation is we assume that certain things are true. Oh, I know the supplier, they always want this, they always want that. Oh, I've been in business for 20 years. I know by heart the packaging supplier, they always want this and that. This is a dangerous assumption. A more effective way, let's say that you go into Humantic, you discover something about their personality, what's their attitude toward risk and those kind of things, then you take it as an hypothesis and you say, well, maybe this is correct. Maybe the information Humantics 8 times out of 10 is correct, but it may not also be correct. Maybe there is a 10 or 20% of the times that is not correct. So take it as an hypothesis, and then you validate your hypothesis during the negotiation. Then we go back to the question from David. I've done my preparation. I put myself into the shoes of the other person. I try to look at different sources to understand as much as possible about the counterpart. I check the Humantic profiles, and then, building on all this information, then I'm gonna test this information, those hypotheses during the negotiation to see whether I had the right idea about their interest and priorities, or whether there is something that I didn't quite get right. So to summarize on the idea of dual vision, is a good negotiation looks at the deal by taking into account the perspective of both parties, if there are two-party negotiation, of all the parties, if it's a multi-party negotiation. So forget about going in only thinking about your goals, your interest, your question, and etc. But go there, and every time you take into account what is important, what are the interests and priorities of all the parties involved, and then you make a deal which will enable both parties to be satisfied with the deals.